Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Expert Dog Training. So, today I'm going to give you a few tips on how to get your dog to come every single time they're called to come the first time. So, I have several steps to give you on come. First, I want you to practice not using their name every time you say a command. So, if you say, Lydia, get off, if you say, Lydia, down, Lydia, sit, I want you to start being aware of the language that you're using with your dog and just use their name for when you're saying come. That way, they will associate every single time that you say come with their name instead of just hearing their name all throughout the day, you know, in normal conversation. And then it starts to wear down on them to where they're less um, cognizant of when you use their name with the word come. So let's just say Lydia when we're going to say come. And you can say Lydia, come, and say those things together. Another tip is that when you are starting out with come, or even if you're having issues, so if you've taught it before and then they're not obeying it as quickly as you would like them to on that first time every time, these are the tips, FYI, as to why we're called expert dog training, because we want that precise dog training with the command obeyed the first time asked. And it's not because we told them to do a command, it's really about safety. The obedience commands come, sit, down, and heel, and even off, all of those commands really have to do with obedience. I recommend not using treats when you're teaching these things unless they're under, like under 6 months of age. Or unless you're just trying to make a good association with the dog, but you need to eventually wean off of the use of treats. And the reason is you may be out at the park and all of a sudden there's a car coming that you didn't know was going to come, and your dog is 60 feet away from you over by this car. And you need to say, come, and you might not have a treat with you at the park. And you can take this scenario and put it anywhere and make any hypothetical situation where there's several instances in which you may need your dog to come that you may not have a treat available. There may be another dog coming towards your dog that is not social or friendly, and you need that dog to listen to you, your dog to listen to you amidst distractions, and you might not have a treat handy at that time. So obedience commands, yes, we're going to make it fun. We're still going to give them lots of positive reinforcement, but it is a command that really needs to be yes, ma'am, yes, sir, regardless of if you have that treat or special toy or whatever it is you used to train with. Now, there are times for that when we're doing scent work, when we're doing agility, when it's a non-obedient command that we're giving them. But when it comes down to obedience, we don't need to give it. Okay, so that's your second tip. The third is to start where you live. Where you live is where your dog is most familiar and most comfortable and most used to and desensitized to all of the stimulants around him or her. So the smells in the air, the smells in your front yard or backyard. Start wherever your dog is most familiar. That way that they can really focus in on what you're asking them to do versus all of the things around them. I had a trainer once, my old boss actually once described it to me this way. A dog can smell an essential oil, one drop of essential oil in an entire football stadium. So we think about it when we go outside, it's not as distracting to us as it is our dogs, especially if you have those dogs that it's also talked about and theorized. If a dog has a blacker nose, the darker nose that the dog has, the more pigments that they have, can relate to their ability to smell. And some have a greater perception of smell than others. This is just one of the theories. But so if you have one of those dark nosed dogs or, someone in the hound group, then obviously this is going to be a big deal for them. But you don't even have to just think about them. Like I've competed in the AKC with my husky for scent work, and he is not a good worker. He does not like to work, but he can still smell and he can still find those scents and do what I'm asking him to do because dogs have that incredible sense of smell. So Start where you're familiar with so they're not as overwhelmed externally and they can focus on what you're asking. Always start your dog on a lead or a leash that gives them plenty of room to go away from you so that you can practice calling them back. It's really important too when you're doing this that you're in a safe place and that you have that collar up around their neck, around just below their ears, and it's tight enough and it's a non-slip type of collar like a biothin collar that can't just come off like we discussed in our previous video, harness or collar. So if you haven't seen that video, it's real short. I just recommend you hop over there and watch that video as well. So we're in our familiar place and we've got a good, not too tight. Obviously, we don't want it to hurt them, but to wear a non-slip, water-resistant collar that won't slip over their head. And then we have our long leash on. I don't care what size you use, just make it long enough to where they can go away and come back. So what I want you to do is the moment that you say come, that very instance that you say come and they choose not to turn and start coming towards you, I want you to start pulling their leash in gently, just letting them know this is what you want them to do every time you say come in that moment. Praise them the whole time they're coming to you so that they're associating like, oh, this is what I do. This is what I do. Okay, I can do this. I can do this. And then they're happy by the time they get to you. So you're going to let them go again and tell them to come, and let them go again and tell them to come. And every time that it's that one split second where you see in their mind they have decided not to come, you're just gently guiding them towards you and praising them the entire way there. Even if they didn't make the decision and you're the one guiding them there, the quicker that you get them there, though gently, very, very gently, lets them know that that's the period of time that you're going to allow them to have between your command and their obedience to the command. So that's where you get fine tuning on your commands as being timely in your response. So when they don't come, you immediately are leading them into you to come. Even if they haven't made that decision, you're praising them to reinforce this is what you want them to do. And you do this so many times that they will just get it. I mean, it happens really quickly. It depends on the dog. It depends on the handler. But that is my advice for teaching your dog come. Now, I don't ever recommend that you teach come by itself because your dog will come and then go. So it's really nice to teach a come to front where your dog will come and then come in front of you. So you've got their attention, they're coming towards you, and then you can just go into a front. If you don't know what a front is, you can look that up or you can request that I do a video on that. I'd be happy to do that. You can also do a come sit. You can do a come to a down. You can do a come to a heel. You can do come to a place. You can do come to any position. I don't recommend place because you might not always have a place when you need to say come, but you can do something where you can engage the dog before they pass you after they come. So when you're distraction proofing this command, you want to take them next after you get it like, spot on in your home. Let's say you start in the backyard, then go to the front yard where there are, maybe cars out there that are driving by at a safe distance where you can practice this exercise with cars, people walking by, dogs, etc., where they're under control and you can practice this command. The more you can practice this command, the more stable and steady they're going to be and consistent in doing it. So it really depends on how much you're willing to get out there and work with them. They're willing to work with you, I promise. And if you can't find a motivation for them to work for you, just message me at brandy@experttraining.com and I will give you some tips on how to motivate them. I can also do another video I'll just go ahead and write that down on tips to motivate for training, because every dog is motivated by something differently. Okay. So let's say you've got come good at home and you're good to go in the backyard and in the front yard. Then you can take your dog out to somewhere where you've got some space. A lot of people just like to go somewhere like the park or Lowe's, because Lowe's, there's not as many scents as the park, but you still have distractions. And if you go at a certain time of day, then there are less distractions and you can just go get them familiar with the area and then do come sits, come fronts, whatever you choose to do multiple times over and over until they're obeying on the first time every time, making sure that you do that in time correction, that as soon as they don't decide to come, you're pulling them in to lead them to come. As soon as they get there, give them all the high praise and rubs and loves and excitement, to reward them for doing the right thing. They'll get it quickly. Whenever you go to a new place, make sure that you're building upon the level of distraction that you were at last. So you're not going to go straight from your home to PetSmart because there are so many distractions there with dogs that you don't even know if they're going to behave right in the first place towards your dog. So you don't want your dog to go into a traumatic situation while you're trying to teach this. So you want to build them up to that level and set them up for success. So one day you're at home, the next day you're at a park that you go to all the time, and then you can introduce them to Lowe's, and then you can introduce them to, just Ross or just different places that allow dogs. You can find lists of places that dogs are allowed online, and then just start increasing that. If you work with him 5 days, twice a day, every day for 5 days, that I could almost promise you they won't forget this, especially if you practice it intermittently, every couple times a week. They're going to really have this for a long time. So another thing is if they are distracted by something like prey drive, if they're at the park and they see a ball or a kid running or a car goes by or there's another dog there or there's a duck, you're going to want to lessen your distractions a little bit and really work through that. So as a handler, it's important that you watch and you listen for your dog's cues. And if they're just really frustrated about something and they're not overcoming in that situation, it's always okay to go back a step. Always okay. And just remember that your dog has emotions, your dog has a personality, and they have a soul and a life of their own. And so it's not our job to control them, to make them push past this thing that's overwhelming to them. If you think about when you're overwhelmed and your ability to handle stress and listen to people and listen to commands when you're overwhelmed, how much is it lessened for you? Well, it's lessened the same for dogs. They have the same issue that we do under stress. It's very hard to listen. So we want to take the scenario that's stressful for them and just add one stressor at a time. And we take the time that it takes because the dog is worth it and your relationship with your dog is worth it. Continue to add distractions. And once you bulletproof, remember every new environment that you go to. So let's say they're really good at come everywhere you've taken them. And then all of a sudden you go out of state and you stay at your sister's house or your friend's house or whoever, fill in the blank, and they're just not coming. Just remind them that, hey, you have to be obedient here too. This is what we do here because it's a completely different environment and they will associate expectations with their environment. So in this environment, there's never been expectations set. So you need to go in and reestablish those, even if it's just, 5-10 minutes of training. And then you should be good the majority of your trip or time that you're there. Just remember that, like children, when we take our children camping with us or to a hotel, we do quite a bit of traveling all over the US. So whenever we take them with us, we have to reestablish, okay, this is where laundry goes when you're done with it. This is where you put your diaper when you take it off. This is where you're going to sleep tonight. This is where we eat. And this is where we have to have quiet time. And this is where you can play. So we have all of these new rules, that same rules, but they look different. And we have to reestablish those with our children and get a routine in with them when we travel. It's the same thing for your dog. So don't get frustrated with your dog if they're not obeying. Sit back and ask yourself, and to make yourself a better handler and go, okay, what is it that I'm upset about in this situation? Why am I mad? Why am I sad? Why am I fearful or anxious? And what am I glad about in this situation? And just take it as a moment to meditate. And this will really make you a better trainer or a better handler, or just, happier human in general. Because a lot of the times when our dog isn't excelling, it's because there's something that we're missing, and we just need to listen to our dog and see what they're telling us. I really hope that this helps you get your dog to listen to come every single time that you call on the first time. Thank you so much for being here. I do have a website, Expert Dog Training. It's experttraining.org. I have 4 dogs currently up for adoption that are fully vaccinated, fully vetted, fully trained, and they will be ready soon to go to their new homes. And they would love to have that home be you. The reason I do this is because I want to reduce the number of dogs that get returned to the pound, because the percentage of dogs that get returned there is really high. So I like to rescue from the pound or from difficult situations and train them, because if they're trained and obedient, you typically won't have a reason to rehome them or put them back into a place of a shelter. And then you just get this dog that's already created just for you. We can tailor it to your needs, and I give you lifetime support as well. So thank you so much. If you're interested in the products that I recommend, like that biothane collar or the leashes that I think are great, I actually have these leads on Teaching Come on my Amazon list as an affiliate. So that link is in the descriptions if you're interested in any of those products. I bless you in abundance in every area of life. And I thank you so much for using your valuable time to listen to Expert Dog Training today. Have a blessed day. Bye-bye.